days later, the king had a strange dream, and no one could explain it. Then the butler remembered Joseph, and he was brought out of prison. The king told him his dreams. The king was standing by the river Nile when 7 fat cows came out of the river. Then came 7 thin cows, and the thin cows ate up the fat ones. God showed Joseph what the dream meant. There will be 7 years of good harvest, followed by 7 hungry years. Joseph told the king, "If you are wise, you will store food in the good years so that your people do not starve in the bad ones." The king was delighted to have his dream explained. Joseph was clearly a man of God. There could be no better man to arrange for the grain and crops to be stored. So the king put his own ring on Joseph's finger and a gold chain around his neck, and made him second in command over the whole land of Egypt. After 7 years, as Joseph said, the crops did not grow, and in many lands there was little to eat. But in Egypt, Joseph opened up the storehouses and sold food to the people. In Canaan, his father and brothers were already short of grain to make bread. At last, Jacob decided to send his sons, all of them except Benjamin, to Egypt. As Jacob's 10 sons stood before the governor, asking if they might buy grain, none of them recognized their long-lost brother. But Joseph knew at one who they were. He decided to see if they were still cruel as they had been. So he looked at them sternly. "You are spies," he said. Flung them into prison. He set them free after 3 days. But he made them promise to bring Benjamin with them next time. And he kept Simon as a hostage to make sure that they came back. Then he ordered his servants to put the money his brothers had paid for the grain back in their sacks. When the brothers opened their sacks and found the money, they were very worried. Sadly, they traveled back to Canaan with the grain. Next time, they must take Benjamin. But how could they persuade Jacob to part with his youngest son? When the food was finished, there was no choice. Benjamin had to go with them or they would starve. Again, they stood before the governor of Egypt, and when Joseph saw Benjamin, he could hardly hold back his tears. "How is the old man, your father?" he said. "And is this your younger brother?" Then Joseph's servants prepared a meal, and the brothers sat down to eat. When the food was brought, Benjamin was given 5 times as much as the others. But still Joseph did not tell them who he was. Next morning, when the sacks were filled with grain, Joseph told his servants to hide his own silver cup in Benjamin's sack. The brother had not gone far when Joseph's men caught up with them. They were looking for the thief who had stolen Joseph's cup. When Benjamin's sack was opened, there to the brothers' horror lay the missing cup. They all returned to the city and fell at Joseph's feet. "The man who sacked the cup was found shall be my slave," said Joseph, testing them. "The rest of you are free to go." But the brothers would not hear of it. They could not bear to tell their father that his son too had been taken from him. Judah spoke. "If Benjamin does not return with us, our father will die of grief. I promised to bring the boy back safely. Let me be your slave in his place." When Joseph heard this, he knew his brothers were truly sorry for what they had done to him all those years before. He sent his servants out of the room and then burst into tears. "I am Joseph," he said. "Is my father still alive?" There was dismay on all their faces. Now Joseph could really pay them back. What would he do to them? But Joseph was speaking again. "Don't be afraid. It was God who sent me here in order to save all your lives. The harvest will be bad for 5 more years, and many will starve to death. Go home and bring the rest of your family here to live near me in the land of Goshen." And he hugged them all as the tears ran down his face. So Jacob and Joseph's brothers, their wives and children, the servants and cattle and flocks left Canaan and came to Egypt. Joseph took Jacob to the palace and meet the king, and they all settled in Goshen, the best part of the land.